For more on our latest poll and how Americans are reacting to the Trump economic agenda, we're joined now by our Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, President Trump put tariffs at the center of his campaign. Now he's enacting them. Is there support for what he's doing?
Like a lot of the way people look at investments, it depends on what you see as your goals and your time horizon, by which I mean, in the immediate, we see 3/4 of Americans think that tariffs will raise prices, at least in the short term, and a lot think in the long term, too. Now, they're sensitive to that because, as we've discussed for many years, inflation and prices are top concerns, right? The second thing we see is an increase in the number of people who think that Donald Trump's policies now are making them financially worse off. And it's not just that movement, but it's the setup against expectations. Back at the start of his term a few months ago, a lot of people thought that his policies would make them financially better off. So that's a big change. But now let me talk about the time horizon, because this applies to his political base, to Republicans, many of whom say, hold on a second, you can't evaluate this right now. You have to give it 6 months. You have to give it a year to see how his tariff and trade policies are going to play out. So with that, they're much more supportive of tariffs and of his approach. They also think that he is just using this as a negotiating tactic. Most of them think that he's going to ultimately remove those tariffs, maybe when he gets what he wants. And so that's why you still see a lot of Republican support for all of this.
Well, the White House had said it's not up for negotiation, but then the President Trump said there is a negotiation, and that's where there's some of the confusion right now. But you did indicate the approval rating itself is under pressure. Where is that pressure centered? So
more people say that they like his goals with trade and tariff policies than his approach. And that approach part is weighing on his ratings for handling the economy, which are down, his ratings for handling inflation, tied to what I described about prices, which are also down. But look, the market in the public mind is not the economy.
It's not. The stock market isn't.
Right.
But it's a pricing mechanism of the future of
exactly.
the economy.
And it is an indicator, especially
right.
for people who say they have money not just in the market, but that their finances are sensitive to what happens in the market. They're much less approving of his approach right now. But having said that, consider also jobs. The public is mixed on whether Trump's approach is going to lead to more manufacturing jobs. Republicans think it will, but again, that's kind of a long-term issue. Back to the politics for a second. You know, people often ask, when does a president own the economy? And right now, this looks like Donald Trump's economy. A majority of people say it's his policies that are responsible, either way, good or bad, for how it is, not Joe Biden's. And that, of course, sets things up going forward.
Anthony Salvanto, great insights. Thank you.
Thank you.